I received my feedback from a developmental editor, so I got my editorial evaluation sent to me. It has been in my inbox all day because I refused to look at it until after the working day was done, A, to be responsible, and B, because I think I'm going to need the space to think and review and everything, and I don't want to have to worry about also being coherent at work. So I am going to probably download it and look at it. This is an evaluation on draft 2 of the first book in my debut fantasy series. I'm hoping that with the feedback, I will get some type of direction on how to address some of these issues. But yes, this is an evaluation. I get feedback on the various macroscopic elements of my book, the characters, the story, the world, the magic system, etc. A critique on all of that with suggestions on how I can improve it and areas that I really have to focus on. So I'm just gonna open it and get right into it. Yeah, I guess wish me luck and I'll let you know how it goes. Okay. It's not a total loss. Here's the thing. So some of the things I was most worried about didn't actually raise too many flags, and I did get some really good suggestions on how to go about a couple of the areas that I was struggling with. I think there's some character relationships that I need to strengthen and kind of figure out exactly how I want that to go. I also got good recommendations for a sort of character arc. I think some of the critiques I didn't expect, but they were very, very helpful. So I do have to work a bit on the ending of the book, but I think what's exciting is that it seems like everything that was set up in the first half developmentally seemed to make sense. It was some of the things at the end which seemed disjointed, and I think that makes a lot of sense because I did make some major changes at the end from draft 1 to draft 2, since it's kind of a different ending and all of that. I will link that video of the changes between these drafts in there, but I do think that the reason the ending specifically needs some work is because it is a new ending from draft 1. So I'm going to mull over all of that feedback, think about how I want to go through at the developmental stage, and to be clear, the plot still needs a good amount of work, but it's not the scaffolding is there. If you have any questions or want any specifics, I'm happy to answer them. I'm a little bit on this anxiety high after I've reviewed the feedback, so I will likely have some time after I sleep on things a little bit to really think things through, but that's all for now. Okay, now that I've had a little bit of time to process everything from the editorial evaluation, and by some time I mean a couple of days, I figured I would touch base and give you all an update on how I'm planning to approach the feedback that I got and how I feel overall about the feedback and the service, and whether it was worth it to get an editorial evaluation. I'm just going to answer that first. Yes. Overall, the feedback is very valuable and very, very helpful. And I think some of the things that the editor found were things I would have missed completely. Hopefully beta readers would have found out about it, but I do like the idea of being able to address some of these major issues before it goes to another round of readers. Again, a huge thank you and maybe an apology to my early readers, but thank you so much. Before I actually sit down and start making the revisions and starting draft 3, there is one very big decision I have to make based on these suggestions. And I'm probably not going to tell you what that decision is in this video. I will let you know later. There is something I have to consider. a suggestion that I have to consider from this evaluation that does shape how I'm going to approach every other bit of feedback. So it is a pretty big decision. Nothing is a total rewrite, it seems. There is a lot of work that has to go into it. I definitely didn't receive nothing but sunshine in response. My draft 2 is certainly not ready to publish, but it is in a better state than I thought it was. And oh my gosh, I can't believe that I was going to scrap this entire story before I sent it to the editor. I think overall the editor enjoyed it. There is very good critique in here, but it's got good bones. And that is the most thrilling thing to hear. Okay, first thing, figure out how I want to approach the last half of the book. And I was able to ask a couple questions on what some of the weakest chapters and scenes were, and I'm still waiting on that feedback. Once I figure that out, the next thing, I have to strengthen some of my character decisions, which it's not going to be super huge, but I do have to be very consistent with my character internal motivation. So the external motivations, especially in like a fantasy adventure, like there are external motivations that seem to be pretty clear for the most part, but the internal motivations do need a little bit of work. And then with that, it really is just a matter of revising some of these more minor details and also adding a little bit more depth and nuance into the story. And so I think the story is where it needs to be to start a draft 3. Again, nothing has to be completely scrapped, but the second half has to be dealt with soon. And that is where I am. There are some bits of feedback in here and suggestions that I don't necessarily think work completely with the story that I'm trying to tell, but the feedback was done like to the point where I was able to step back, see why she was making the recommendation, why she suggested organizing certain things a particular way. And so understanding where someone else was coming from gives me a better idea of how I might want to approach it, so I can still use some elements of the suggestions that she gave. I don't know if that makes any sense, but at the end of the day, even the things I don't completely agree with are still helpful. I'm very excited. I'm feeling very excited about my book and about the directions that I am going to take with it based on this feedback. So with that, I think I will let you guys go. I've talked a lot. I do hope you guys are doing well, and thank you so much for going along this journey with me. I hope to see you in the next one, and happy writing.